Hi, hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is Kathryn Richter. She is a registered nurse, self-care, and mindset coach. She helps business owners and other professionals create a thriving career by designing a life based around self-care. Her holistic background as a nurse, yoga instructor, and essential oil educator reflect in her work with her clients. She offers them various tools to help reduce fear, let go of guilt, and increase confidence by taking continuous action, ultimately leading to a happier, healthier, and successful life and business. In her mission is to coach as many people as possible so they can feel balanced and have more energy to share their light with the world. Kathryn, thank you so much for your time and coming on today. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Rebecca. This is so fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited. Why don't you start by telling the viewers where you're tuning in from?
Yeah, I'm in North Kingstown, Rhode Island. So tiny
Okay.
little spot here in New England.
I love it. That's awesome. So I love being relatable and having us start out with you just telling us something that's interesting about you and your life.
Oh, what's interesting about me and my life? I am no different from my clients, right? I'm on the same journey too. Honestly, I struggle with all the same things that they struggle with. I just am a little further along the process and have done more of the work. And I think that's really important to share because I think that, through posting and sharing education and information, sometimes people can feel a little overwhelmed, like, oh, I couldn't work with this person. I'm not like them. And it's like, oh, so I'm just here to say that couldn't be further from the truth. We are all very much alike, and don't ever let that get in the way of having a conversation with somebody that you want to better your life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. And I mean, that's what helps us be more qualified to help people too, is that we've already been through the experiences and, we know from firsthand. I mean, what better coach or person to help you through it than someone that's dealt with the experience firsthand?
Well, it's so true. And it's funny that you say that because I was just at an event a couple weeks ago and I met this man and he was a success coach. He called himself a success coach. And on the bottom, it said, gosh, I can't remember exactly what his quote was, but it was essentially like, I don't judge success based on things that I've done. I judge success based on what I help my clients achieve. And I thought that was interesting because I thought, is that sort of your way of saying do as I say, not as I do? And I think for us to be able to ask things of our clients, we have to have been able to have done the work too, right? Otherwise, who am I to ask you to do something if I haven't even done it myself? If I'm not willing to walk through the fire and do the stuff that's really hard,
Yeah.
I have no right to ask anyone else to do it.
Absolutely. I can think of two instances immediately with myself that the first time someone asked me if I've ever been in front of a camera and did a boudoir photo shoot, I was like, no. And then the second time someone asked me if I've ever done a boudoir photo shoot, like for myself, I was like, no, but I'm going to book one right now because it's one of those things, like you want someone that knows firsthand what that experience is like for anything. And you get on the same level and you resonate with people that much more and can help them through the certain struggles that they're working through. So yeah, for sure. You have to go through what you're asking of other people to know really how they feel, and how you can better help them move through it faster. That's really the goal with anything that we do, I think, is just to help more people, even if it's just one person, and just speaking our truth and getting our experiences out there. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's dive in and talk about fear more. And why don't you tell us about a significant time in your life that fear had held you back from living your life fully?
And that's such a good question because I remember when you asked that, I was like, fear is not something that I am used to or that have.
Right.
Like I didn't grow up with fear. And so I had to really think about it. And when I was really honest with myself, I was like, man, business is scary. Like sometimes it's still scary now. But it was really scary at the beginning, right? Where it was suddenly like, okay, yeah, I'm a nurse. Yes, I did my coaching training. I was doing all this free coaching, but then I was suddenly like, who am I to start charging for this, right? Who am I to help these people? And so there was a lot of fear around putting myself out there, right? Like on a video or
Right.
posting anywhere and sharing. And, I think that one of the things that I've learned about fear is that when we focus on fear, it's all about us. And when we can take a step back and recognize that if we let that fear get in the way, all that's doing is holding us back and impacting all the other people that we could be helping. So I think for me, that's the shift. So if I find myself getting fearful, what might they think? What might they say? There's always going to be people that don't like what you say, but it's only because they know that they need to be doing it. They're not ready. So they're pissed. Right?
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's like recognizing like fear is just a sign that I'm on the right path. And when it's holding me back, it just means, shit, this is something I absolutely have to be doing because it keeps showing up. And I know that there's a lesson behind it. And so really being able to not let it hold you back, because then you just feel bummed out and sad and like a loser, right? That you're not living your truest passion, and let it be the fire that ignites you into living your purpose and whatever that is for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So, give us a time frame of when that was, like, for you and going into business for yourself and the scary parts. How long was that for you? And like, where were you mentally during the fear and that kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely started at the beginning, right? Where it started at the beginning where I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I mean, literally it was like, I didn't know how to do anything on the back end, like how to send group emails, right? How to send a newsletter, how to do all these posts. Like I had no idea. I was a nurse. I was a yoga teacher. Like I was into wellness. So from the very beginning of my business, which I started, at the end of 2015 is sort of when I was becoming a coach and doing the training. And then really into 2016, when that was sort of the year that I was expanding and actually stepping out and coaching, that was really, really scary. And so I'd be lying if I said I'm still not scared now, because as I continue to grow and as anybody continues to grow, you just set bigger and bigger goals. So they're always going to be scary. But I think for me now, the difference is that I feel way more equipped to deal with my fears. Right. Yeah. And when they show up, I recognize that they're there for a reason. And so once I understand what that is, then it's like, oh yeah, cool. Okay. You're here to try to show me something. So it's a different relationship with it versus it's more of this like, cool, what are you here to show? Right. What am I supposed to learn from you? Versus this like judgmental, heavy, fearful, frozen place.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So during that time, how did you feel about yourself? I mean, you're going through a lot of like the fear, but the excitement. So how did you feel about yourself when you were starting your business?
I felt like a total fraud. I mean, I did. There were moments where I really thought, like, who am I to do this? And when I was really honest, I was like, I know who I am. Like, I have a lot of life experience, my own, like I feel this in my heart, even saying this to you, where it's like, I have so much life experience that I've lived way beyond my years. I was such an old soul, and really I knew since I was like 5 years old that I wanted to help people. I was like nursing my grandmother. My great grandmother was like 95 and hit her head, and I was like tending to her. Right. So it was like, I always knew that was my role. I forgot your question.
Just how you felt about yourself during the time of the fear. And
I didn't feel great, and there would be days where I remembered like, okay, Kathryn, you're good. You got this. You're fine. And then other times where it was like,
yes,
I feel like a loser. I'm a fraud. Who am I? I shouldn't be doing this. Right. And so it's kind of like this pendulum, and now not so much.
Yes, we have peaks and valleys with entrepreneurship and like stepping out. A lot of fear based around it, but definitely have peaks and valleys every single other day.
It's true. And I know that will continue. And I hope that it does, because that means that I'm growing, that I'm learning, and that I'm continuing to step outside of my comfort zone. And I think it's just really important to tune into how you feel, right? Like on those days that I feel that way, what am I missing? What do I need,
Right.
right? Maybe I need to tend to myself a little bit more. Maybe I'm missing out on something, right? Maybe I need to pull back. But I think that it's that shifting of the relationship and recognizing, oh, well, wait, I don't do something because it feels good, right? That's one of the biggest things I learned with working with my current coach. She's like, Kathryn, you don't do it because it feels good. You do it because sometimes that's just what you need to do.
Yeah.
And if you didn't do all the things, right? Like if you didn't like it and you didn't do it, you wouldn't be successful. And so I think that's just it. It's not like I want to do it or I like to do it. It's like, that's not really an option. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. It's cool if you do, but you got to do it either way.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I love that. That's great advice too. I like that. So, when you were breaking free from the fear and moving in a new direction of starting your business and being an entrepreneur and all those things, how did relationships and friendships, did those move with you? How did those shift?
Yeah, that's a great question. Most of them stayed the same and did move with me. There were a few that I had to leave behind. They weren't on the same page. They made it about them and that I wasn't there for them. I just recognized that as that they were needing something that I just could no longer give them. And that the relationship where we had first initially met and what it was like, the friendship was like, and what we were getting from one another just wasn't there anymore. And I think that we grow into friendships and out of friendships. And a lot of them really stayed the same and some even strengthened because people saw me stepping into my own personal power, right? Stepping into sharing my light that they had all seen because they always came to me. I was that person, right? Kathryn, I have this going on. Talk to me, right? So-and-so said this. Talk me through it, right? So I was always that person. And I think for them to see like, oh, she's finally doing this. She's doing this for a business. She's doing this in a way that is sustainable to her, but she's also helping other people. Like, how cool is that? I want to stay connected.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And that's just how it works too, right? We grow out of things, but we also grow into things. And like you said, if you're not stepping out into the uncomfortable places, then we're just not growing and we're staying stagnant. And yeah, that's not a good place to be. So I love that. So what compelled you to jump ship from your fear that was holding you back? And going from being a full-time nurse and all of those things, and then moving to doing your own coaching and things like that. So tell us more about, what really compelled you to jump ship from the fear that might have held you back before.
Yeah. For me, it was, if I don't do this, what will my life look like?
Sure.
And for me, that was, I will be working as a nurse full-time in a hospital or in an office setting. In the office setting, I would probably be super bored. And in the hospital, really burnt out, 12, 13, 14-hour days. Yeah. And so for me, that was really the driving force of, this is not what I want my life to be like. And this is not, that's what I said before I began my business. I thought, do I want to do this for another 35 years? And the answer was no. And so for me, that was really the driving force, which was, this is what I don't want. Therefore, this is going to light the fire for me to create what I actually want. So whether I wanted to get over the fear or not, I wanted out more than I was willing to let the fear hold me back. So I pressed on and I did it, and I was terrified, and I went on my Facebook Live and I was like pouring sweat and I was so nervous, and but it was like, and then I did it and people commented and they were like, we're so excited. This is great. And it was like, I survived.
Yeah.
And then I just continued to do that. And so for me, I think it's just the remembering for anyone out there, right? It's your desire for change has to be greater than the desire for it to stay the same.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And what are the consequences of keeping things the way they are? Like, what is it that you're continuing to tolerate? Right? What is it that you're giving up by staying here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think that goes like with, there's a saying, something about, like when we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else, that kind of thing. I think that kind of goes with it too, because if we're not stepping out into the fear, then we're also holding back the fear with something else, and being able to switch those mindsets is really important when moving through those struggles, and that we have every day, right? It's not that we don't have the fears, it's that we do have them. We, like you said, we recognize them, and then we do it anyways. You just got to do it.
Yeah. And it's so funny that you just used that quote, because I literally just wrote a blog post and I'll be posting it this week. And one of the things is just that. What are you saying no to, right? Because if you say yes to something or someone else, you're saying no to something else. Right. And so I talk a lot about, that's what my post is about, right? Energy management. How do you manage your energy? And that's one of the things, right? Is recognizing. Yes. So that's funny.
Oh, I love that. I did not even know that.
Yeah, we didn't rehearse that.
I know, right? That was totally off the cuff. There we go. That's awesome. So what advice would you give the viewers for overcoming fear in general?
You know, I think the biggest thing for fear, first and foremost, is to really just stop wherever you are and to really feel into your body, right? Like literally stop, sit down, take a few breaths, get centered. Because fear is like this energy in your head, right? It's this like way out there in the future. And oftentimes that's what fear is, right? It's fear of doing something that you've never done before, or of something that hasn't happened yet, or you don't know the outcome.
Yeah.
And then you freak yourself out. And so my biggest piece of advice is to ground yourself and recognize, like, here in this moment, you're safe, you're alive, you're fine. Take some deep breaths into that, and then think about, what is the next thing I can do? Because the reality is you could spend your entire life creating stories about endings and what might happen and all these possibilities. But the reality is that usually the truth, like the way it really turns out, is either not as bad as you thought, or it's like way more amazing than you ever would have thought.
Yeah.
And I think when you can reel yourself back in to the present and really ask yourself, like, is this true? Right? Is whatever your fear is, like, is that true? Could that really happen? All right, what would be the worst thing if it happened? Okay, is that really a big deal? No. So is it a big deal? I guess it's really not. Okay, cool. Right? And so it's just having the conversation in your head, right? It's literally having the talk with yourself, the self-talk, and walking yourself through. Is it really as big of a deal, or are we just creating it, letting it seem to be bigger than it is?
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then once you're clear on that,
manifests, right? Like if we let it sit there, then it'll just like manifest into the bigger thing, which I think that's a big reason that Mel Robbins came up with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing, and just like do it. Because once we have a thought and it gets planted, it goes further and further in, and it literally just grows into this big, scary fear monster that we've just, like you said, we've just made up all these reasons of why it's so scary, and it's really probably not.
Yeah. And I think to add to that, which is so funny, is like, before I heard about Mel Robbins, I was talking about that because they understood, right, that you literally, like 97% of our life, we live on autopilot, right? Yeah. So that literally means like you have like 3 to 5 seconds before you go from like making a conscious decision here in the present moment to autopilot. That's crazy. 3 to 5 seconds is super short, right? And so it's like, okay, right here in this moment, is this true? Is this what I want? Yes, boom, okay, take action, right? And literally just do it, whatever it is, you know? Because I think otherwise, right, it's like, oh, I'm gonna exercise. Oh, I'm just gonna sit for a minute. Well, now you're totally not gonna exercise, right? Or make the phone call that is uncomfortable, or whatever the thing is, right? It's like, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
It might be a flop, but you won't die. I promise you won't die.
Right.
And you'll learn from it. So really, at the end of the day, your fears are not nearly as big as you think they are. And they're not, most of the time, they're really not even real.
Right. Yeah.
Which is great. We just make them up. Yeah. Yeah.
That's true. I think you mentioned something about fear and control and not being in control or something like that. What do you think about fear and control? How do you think those go together? You know, is it that we have a lot of fears because we don't know the outcomes? That's what it was. You mentioned something about not knowing the outcome and having the control. And I personally feel like there's a big correlation between people not having control over the outcome of everything. And that's really how we manifest our fears to be bigger than they really are.
I think that's exactly what it is
Okay.
just that, is that people don't have control or feel as though, right? It may be an illusion. It may not be real. It may feel as though they don't have control. And I think when people don't have control, it's scary. Oh my God, it's not on me. It's on someone else, right? And then you're like grasping at straws and you're like holding everything tight and everything restricts and closes down, right? Because you're just so terrified, right? And so from like this, you can tell I teach yoga, right? So it's like this very closed space, right? Versus like when we do these hard opening, right? It's like trust, right? I don't know what the hell's going to happen, but just trust, right? Open to receive. And I
Yeah.
think that's the difference, right? Is like control is this, how do I want to say it? It's almost like this thing that if we have it, then somehow we feel okay. And if we don't, then somehow it's a bad thing. And I don't know that control is even real. I think it's just sort of this facade that we've created, right? Like that you can control certain things. And I think that, ultimately the only thing you can control is you, is how you show up, is what you think, how you feel, what you say to people, what your actions are, what your thoughts are, even though it's a practice, but ultimately that's all your control. Nothing else is.
Yeah.
And I
100%.
think the earlier people recognize that, they'll save themselves a whole lot of fear and stress trying to change everybody else. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's great advice. So, okay, so you are really good at like moving through and understanding the fear-based, and, is kind of letting go of the control and understanding that, you just have to do it, right? So, now that you are living more fearlessly in that sense, where do you see yourself 5 years from today?
I always love these types of questions. Definitely still doing a lot of what I'm doing with the coaching,
Yeah.
working with amazing women, but also bigger, doing on a grander scale. So working with way more women, way more groups up on stages to really speak to the masses. Because I really truly believe in my heart that when more people can step into their own personal power and really live their best life, right? Like physically, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, nutritionally, career-wise, like all of these aspects that make up you in your life, that the way you show up ripples and affects everyone else around you. And that's why I believe that the more people that are doing this personal work, and whatever it looks like for you, right, that is going to grow and grow and grow, and the impact and how we all show up as a collective will be there.
Absolutely. 100%. I love that. That's amazing. Yay. I got goosebumps. I love when women are just like seeing the bigger picture for themselves and like how they can help the masses and grow with other like-minded women. I love that. That's always so fun to hear.
Well, and I think just to add on to it as an ending, it's also about the reality is when you're doing one-on-one coaching, you only have enough time in the day, right? So you can either raise your prices or coach more people. And I think that that's the other piece, right? Again, is like for me personally, I'm assuming a lot of other women as well, but I became a coach because I wanted to be able to create a more sustainable life for myself, right? For myself, for my family. And so I think that's another really big piece, is making sure that when you have this growth, that you do it in a way that's sustainable for yourself, for your business, right? So continuing to take care of yourself as things grow so that you don't burn out, and then you're no good to anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. So where is the best place for the viewers to connect with you personally?
Yeah, so it's like all my name, which is like super long, but it will be down listed below. But my website is my name, so it's www.kathrynfordrichter.com. And that's also my Facebook. It's Kathryn Ford Richter Coach. Kathryn Ford Richter LinkedIn, Kathryn Ford Richter Instagram. So literally type in Kathryn Ford Richter and like, there you are.
Perfect. Not hard to find. I love it. I love it. Kathryn, is there anything that you would love to leave the viewers with?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, since today was really all about fear, it's don't let that get in the way. When you are really clear on whatever it is that you're wanting in your life to manifest and to create, let that be your guide. Because when you let that be your guide, that's stronger than the fear, and you will continue to step into action and you'll continue to make a difference in this world.
Yeah, absolutely. Action is the key thing, right? I mean, we said, like you said before, we're the only ones that can, control ourselves. We control ourselves. It's the only thing we really have control over, and making our decisions and taking the action. Those are the big things that I always take away from things like this, because that's really all you can do is take the action. If you say, I want to do this, I need to help people do this, then you have to take the action and make the decision for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on.
This is so fun.
More about you and your story. And anyone that's watching, please reach out to Kathryn, connect with her. She's amazing. And if you have any questions, please reach out to her or and we would love to connect with you personally. So Kathryn, thank you so much for your time. Totally appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And everyone that's watching, remember to love yourself and live fearlessly. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, guys.